Sometimes, in the grand theater of professional wrestling, a moment happens that stops time. It's not about the athletic move, or the pyrotechnics, or even the championship gold. It's about the look in someone's eyes. It's about a story reaching a boiling point we didn't even know was simmering. We thought we were watching the return of a hero. We thought we were witnessing a moment of triumph, a restoration of order. But we were wrong. What we actually saw was a statement, a brutal, calculated message delivered not with a microphone, but with an act of violence so personal it left an entire arena in stunned, breathless silence. This is the story of that silence, and what happened when the noise finally rushed back in. This is the story of the day Liv Morgan reminded the world that in a story of heroes and villains, the most dangerous character is the one who has truly lost everything. The sound is the first thing that hits you. It's not just noise, it's a physical force, a roar of thousands, concentrated into a single unified wave of adoration. This was the sound that greeted Rhea Ripley. After weeks of absence, weeks of silence, her music hit the speakers, and the arena didn't just cheer, it erupted. This was more than a return. It was a resurrection. Every person in that building, and every person watching at home, felt it. They had missed their mommy. They had missed their dominant champion, the gothic rock star who walked with an unmatched, unapologetic arrogance. As Rhea stepped through the curtain, the spotlight felt like validation. She soaked it in. The leather jacket, the defiant stare, the championship belt that was rightfully hers, it was all back where it belonged. She wasn't just a wrestler. She was an icon, the immovable object at the center of the women's division. The fans chanted her name, a deafening chorus that seemed to shake the very rafters of the building. This was her kingdom, and she was their queen. She stood in the center of the ring, a microphone in her hand, a smirk playing on her lips. She was home. And in that moment, she was completely, blissfully, and dangerously unaware of the shadow that was about to fall. Then, a different song played. A familiar, almost upbeat tune that cut through the heavy bass of Rhea's anthem. The energy in the arena shifted. It wasn't hostility, not yet. It was confusion. Out walked Liv Morgan. She wasn't dressed to fight. She wore a bright smile, her arms open wide. The crowd, momentarily perplexed, settled into a murmur of polite applause. Liv had been on her own journey, a revenge tour that had stalled, and she too had a history with Rhea. But this felt different. This felt like peace. Liv Morgan stepped into the ring, and the two women stood face to face. Rhea, still bathing in the glow of her return, smiled back. She opened her arms for an embrace, a sign of respect, a truce. Liv stepped in, and the two hugged in the center of the ring as the crowd cheered, believing they were seeing a moment of sportsmanship. And then, it happened. The hug tightened. Liv's smile didn't fade. It hardened. And then, boom! It wasn't just an attack. It was a dismantling, a brutal, relentless assault on a friend who had her guard down. The crowd's cheer died instantly, replaced by a vacuum of pure, unadulterated shock. It wasn't the attack that silenced them. It was the way it happened. The smile, the hug, the cold, calculating betrayal. Liv Morgan stood over Rhea's fallen body, her expression no longer smiling, but terrifyingly serene. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was an execution. While the arena was locked in a stunned silence, a different kind of chaos erupted backstage. The live feed cut to replays, but the gorilla position, the area just behind the curtain, was pandemonium. Producers were screaming into headsets. Medical staff, who had been on standby for Rhea's promo, were now sprinting down the ramp. But most telling, the other wrestlers. Imagine a locker room, filled with the toughest athletes in the world, all gathered around the monitors. When the hug happened, there were nods of approval. When the attack began, the room fell silent. Jaws dropped. These are people who understand the business, who know the risks. But this This felt personal. It crossed a line that even they rarely see. You could hear someone whisper, "She didn't. She wouldn't." But she did. The look on Liv's face as she walked back through that curtain was something no one would ever forget. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't angry. She was empty. She walked past her peers, past the frantic producers, and didn't say a word. She just kept walking, leaving a trail of questions in her wake. The locker room, which is usually a loud, bustling place, became a library. No one knew what to say. The message Liv had sent wasn't just for Rhea. It was for every single person in that building, and especially for everyone in the back. No one is safe. In the seconds it took for the crowd to find its voice, a sound that quickly turned from shock to a deafening chorus of boos, the internet had already exploded. It was a digital wildfire. Phones lit up across the globe. That 10-second clip, the smile, the hug, the attack, was already a GIF. It was already a reel. It was already trending worldwide on X, formerly Twitter. The hashtags were instantaneous. WWE Raw, Rhea Ripley, and the one that captured the entire sentiment. Why Liv why? Fans were not just angry, they were hurt. Rhea's return was supposed to be a celebration. Liv, despite her recent darker edge, was still seen by many as the ultimate underdog, the one who fought with her whole heart. This act felt like a betrayal of them, of the very fans who had supported her journey. Comment sections became war zones. "This is disgusting," one wrote. "That was the most cold-blooded thing I've ever seen," wrote another. Theories swirled instantly. Was this part of the script, or had Liv gone into business for herself? The line between the performance and the person blurred into non-existence. It didn't matter what was planned. The emotion was real. The shock was real. The visceral gut-punch feeling of watching a friend betray another was real. Liv Morgan hadn't just attacked Rhea Ripley. She had attacked the audience's sense of trust, and they would not forgive her for it. To understand the brutality of that moment, you have to understand the months that led up to it. This was not a random act. This was the boiling point of a story written in pain. We have to go back. Back to when Rhea Ripley, in her quest for dominance, injured Liv Morgan. It wasn't just a simple injury. It put Liv on the shelf for months. It took away her momentum. It took away her partner. It took away the one thing she lived for, the connection with the crowd. While Rhea Ripley's star ascended to heights few ever reach, Liv Morgan was at home, healing. And in that isolation, something changed. The bubbly, energetic underdog died, and something colder was born. When she returned, she called it the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. But it was disjointed. It lacked a target. She attacked others, but it never seemed to satisfy the darkness that was growing inside her. She was a ghost haunting the women's division, a reminder of Rhea's collateral damage. But Rhea never paid the price. She was too dominant, too protected, too beloved. So Liv waited. She waited for the perfect moment. Not when Rhea was at her strongest, surrounded by her faction, but when she was at her most vulnerable, not physically, but emotionally. The moment she returned to the adulation of the fans, the moment she felt safe. Liv didn't just want to injure Rhea. She wanted to humiliate her. She wanted to take away that feeling of safety, just as Rhea had taken it from her. Let's talk about the smile. That's the part that haunts everyone. That's the part that elevated this from a simple attack to an act of pure psychological warfare. If Liv had simply run to the ring and attacked Rhea from behind, it would have been cowardly. If she had grabbed a microphone and screamed at her, it would have been anger. But the smile, the hug, that was something else entirely. That was calculation. It was a performance. In that moment, Liv Morgan was playing the part of the friend. She was weaponizing the audience's and Rhea's expectation of sportsmanship. The hug was a lie. It was designed to do one thing, to make Rhea lower her guard completely. to make her feel the warmth of acceptance just seconds before the ice-cold reality of the betrayal. It's the ultimate predator's move, to mimic friendship, to show empathy, only to use that trust as the blade. Liv wasn't just angry, she was cold. The smile was a mask for a rage that had simmered for so long it had become patient, methodical, and terrifying. She needed Rhea to feel not just the physical pain of the attack, but the emotional agony of being tricked. She wanted Rhea to remember the hug more than the first blow. It was a message that said, "You never knew me, you never saw me coming, and you will never be able to trust anyone again." Before this night, Rhea Ripley was more than a champion. She was a fortress. As the mommy of the Judgment Day, she was the enforcer, the matriarch, the one who held the chaotic group together. She was the one who projected invincibility. When her stablemates faltered, she was the one who stepped up. Her dominance wasn't just physical, it was emotional. She was the unbreakable leader. And in 30 seconds, Liv Morgan shattered that illusion. This attack did more than just injure Rhea, it exposed her. It proved she could be hurt. It proved she could be outsmarted. It proved she could bleed. And this sent a shockwave through the entire power structure of the WWE. What happens to the Judgment Day when their mommy is vulnerable? When the leader is seen not as a predator, but as prey? The rest of the group, her boys, now have to react. Do they rally around her, or does the power vacuum begin to tear them apart? And what about Rhea herself? She now has to climb a mountain she's never faced before. Self-doubt, the arrogance, the smirk, the confidence. It was all built on a foundation of invincibility. Liv Morgan took a sledgehammer to that foundation. Rhea Ripley now has to rebuild herself, not as a dominant champion, but as a survivor. And she has to do it knowing the one who took her down is still out there, smiling. For over a year, the entire women's division revolved around one person. Every match, every storyline, every championship aspiration had to go through Rhea Ripley. She was the final boss. Many tried, and every single one of them failed. She had cleaned out the division, leaving a landscape with no credible challengers, only victims. This created stability, but it also created stagnation. We all knew the story. Rhea wins. Then came Liv Morgan. With one brutal act, she didn't just end the chapter, she burned the entire book. Suddenly, the division is thrown into absolute chaos, and it has never been more compelling. Liv Morgan, by betraying her own humanity, has instantly become the most dangerous, most unpredictable, and most talked about person in the company. She is the new final boss, not through a dominant reign, but through a single terrifying act. Every other woman in that locker room watched what Liv did, and they had two reactions. The first was fear. The second was opportunity. With Rhea out of the picture, the throne is empty. The championship is, for the first time in a year, vulnerable. Liv may have been the one to strike the blow, but she has inadvertently opened the door for everyone else. The entire division has been reset. The era of mummy is over. The era of anarchy has just begun. There is a price for sending a message that loud. Liv Morgan got what she wanted. She got the world's attention. She got revenge. She got the main event spot. But what did she lose? She lost them. The fans. The Live-a-lots who had carried her on their shoulders, who had cried with her when she won her first championship. The sound she hears now is not the adoring cheer she once lived for. It is a unified, hateful chorus of boos. It's the sound of thousands of people chanting, "You sold out." It's the look of disappointment in the eyes of the kids in the front row. When she walks backstage now, she doesn't see friends. She sees colleagues who look away. She sees the isolation she earned. There is a profound loneliness in becoming the villain. You live on an island of your own making. Every great tragic figure in history wanted something so badly they were willing to destroy a part of themselves to get it. Liv wanted the spotlight, and she was willing to burn down her own reputation to stand in its glare. The question she must now ask herself in the quiet moments when the cameras are off and the crowd is gone, is the one that defines her entire future. Was it worth it? Was the satisfaction of hearing Rhea's return promos cut short worth the deafening silence of her own locker room? We've spent this entire time analyzing the what Liv did, what Rhea felt, what the fans thought. But we've been missing the real story. We've been asking the wrong question. It was never, why did Liv attack Rhea? The real question is, what was the message, and who was it really for? We assumed this was a story of revenge, a simple A to B plot. Rhea hurt Liv, so Liv hurt Rhea. But the more you watch the clip, the more you look into Liv's serene, cold eyes after the attack, the more you realize the truth. Rhea Ripley was just a symbol. She was the one who had everything Liv was supposed to have: the championship, the adulation, the main event. The real attack, the real message, wasn't for Rhea. It was for us. It was for the fans who cheered for her as an underdog, but abandoned her the second she wasn't winning. It was for the media that wrote her off as a mid-carder. It was for the system that praised Rhea's dominance, while forgetting the one Rhea stepped on to get there. Liv didn't just snap, she calculated. She realized that the only way to get our attention, the only way to be taken seriously, was not to ask for the spotlight, but to rip it from the person we loved the most. She didn't just betray Rhea, she betrayed our entire concept of her. She forced us to hate her, because she'd rather be a hated monster than a forgotten hero. That was the message, and the twist. It wasn't an attack, it was a choice. She finally and truly took control.